very good morning. Just 4 days to go in this summer window. We're into the final stretch and we're expecting drama, plenty of it as well. Time is running out for teams to get the deals over the line and there are still some massive moves in the pipeline. Coming up on Good Morning Transfers, it was a nightmare first start of the season for Andre Onana after his errors saw Ruben Amorim's side crash out of the Carabao Cup to Grimsby. Do United need to get a keeper in? The saga of the summer continues to rumble on. Will we see developments surrounding Alexander Isak's future? What about Nicholas Jackson? He's a wanted man. Could Bayern Munich be his next destination? And they missed out on Abera Eze just a week ago. Will Tottenham find an alternative in time? Could they poach Chelsea target Xavi Simons? A very good morning to you at home and to former Wales, Swansea and Everton defender Ashley Williams joins us and European football expert Andy Brassell is in the studio as well. Great to have you both with us. Finally, it looks like there has been a breakthrough between Chelsea and Manchester United regarding a deal for Alejandro Garnacho. A deal is now closed with a compromise to be reached regarding the valuation. Ashley, it feels like now we can say with 4 days to go in the window that Alejandro Garnacho will probably be a Chelsea player. But given it's a World Cup year as well, he's been left out of the Argentina squad for the upcoming games. How much does Alejandro Garnacho need this move?
Yeah, he's desperate. I think he's made that clear from the start. He wanted to go to Chelsea. That was his preferred team. It's a good move for Manchester United. Obviously, he's got no desire to play for Manchester United anymore. As you said, he needs to get back into that Argentina squad. So that's where he wants to go. So if this move does go ahead and he gets into that Chelsea club, it's now down to him. I think it's time for him to start showing what he can do regularly, week in, week out. And he's got no more excuses. He can't say he's unhappy because this is exactly what he wanted. Whether he fits into that system or not, or where he fits in and how they use him, I'm not sure yet. But for him himself as a player, he wanted this, he's got it. So now it's time to let his actions do the talking.
Andy, is this a risk for Chelsea in any way, given the situation Alejandro Garnacho finds himself in at United?
I mean, it's less of a risk than if they'd have paid what United actually wanted, yeah. but it's still a risk, definitely, because the potential's been obvious for a while, but that we're still talking about potential, I think is a bit of a concern, because you would have expected him to progress faster. I guess this has been a recurrent problem for Manchester United, isn't it? You've got a player. Can you make him into what he really should be? And there have been so many of those players at Manchester United who haven't turned into that player. So now the onus is on Maresca, is on his team, is on Chelsea to make him into what he should be. But they've clearly been looking for that wide player for quite a long time. They didn't feel that Jadon Sancho was it, so they've gone with Garnacho instead.
Yeah, it's interesting about Alejandro Garnacho, because like you say, you're not quite sure actually where he fits in, but there's a real opportunity there with Jamie Gittins really the only rather recognised left winger. If Alejandro Garnacho comes in and sorts himself out, gets focused, there's a real chance that he could nail down that starting spot, given that Gittins only came in the summer. Yeah,
I think you nailed it there as well. It's about him mentally being a professional now, and I think sometimes you see a little bit the odd tantrum here. Sometimes he does a bit more talking off the pitch than he should do on the pitch. We've all seen the flashes of what he can do. He's clearly a good football player, but what he needs to do now, if he gets this move, is settle down and make that position his position now. I mean, we were talking off camera before that the attacking players sometimes find themselves in and out of the squad, in and out the starting 11 quite regular. But for him, he needs to be that good at Chelsea where, because there's an opening there, he starts all the time. Every week he's the first name on the team sheet for that position. But
is like we say about the risk, what happens if Alejandro Garnacho doesn't nail down a starting space and he finds himself on the bench at Chelsea? Are we then in the same position that he was in at United, or do you think it will be different?
Well, maybe. Look, I think Maresca is pretty much... He demands players to give everything off the ball. And that has been, I think, one of the major problems with Garnacho. You haven't really seen... On the ball, he looks great for a lot of the time. And then when United haven't got the ball, you're like, come on, I want to see a bit more. And I can't believe that Maresca will let him get away with that. And when you look at the competition, as you say, with Jamie Gittins, someone who started last season with Dortmund brilliantly, didn't finish last season brilliantly, and again, has an enormous lot to prove. If you think of the sort of players that Chelsea have gone with in recent years, that sort of young and hungry, the competition is so intense. It's like you said, Ashley, there's not just no excuses for Garnacho, but if he doesn't give everything, it just won't happen for him.
And I think on that point as well, which I'm sure we'll touch on, all Manchester United players kind of have an excuse at the minute because they've come from Manchester United and nobody's playing good. Well, now he's going to a team that are actually performing with a manager that looks like he knows how to get a tune out of his players. So if he isn't doing the work off the ball or if his end product isn't good enough, it is now on Garnacho, not on... He can't blame anybody else. He can't blame the team or the club because the rest of the players are doing the business.
Yeah, he absolutely can't. But he is young and there is still so much potential, I think, in Alejandro Garnacho. And it's a similar situation for Kobbie Mainoo, still so young with so much to give. But he could also leave Manchester United. Ruben Amorim saying he does believe in the midfielder amid interest from clubs in the Premier League and across Europe. But actually, I mean, it's all good and well coming out and saying that you do believe in a player, but you're not really giving him any game time. So what does that mean? It's a World Cup here for Kobbie Mainoo as well.
Well, I think from the manager's point of view, he's probably saying the right thing. But if I'm a player and my manager's coming out post-match or, you know, in the press conference saying he believes in me, but he's not playing me, that tells me that he doesn't really believe in me. And we've all seen, again, his quality, what he can do in the Premier League and on the international level. He needs to be playing for a top team. He's a good player. And also, he's so popular in the area, in the Manchester area, that fan base. I'm not sure if he leaves that team, how that's going to go down at all. I don't think it'll go down very well.
It's a really difficult sell to the fans, I think, because obviously United have had their difficulties. And on the whole, the fans who filled Old Trafford have really stuck with them. But I think this is going to be difficult to swallow. If you think of like Danny Welbeck and how much it hurt those Man United fans when he went, because someone who comes through the system to excel, and you know, Mainoo is someone who could be one of their best players if they develop him right. There's no doubt about that. It would be such a shame. I think a lot of United fans would find that very difficult to accept, particularly if he went to a Premier League rival and excelled there.
And obviously Premier League clubs are interested in Kobbie Mainoo, but there are some European suitors as well. Where do you think he would be best suited if he was to go abroad, Andy?
I could see him, not that I think they especially need him at this moment. I could see him being a Bayern player. And I could see him be a really, really good Bayern player. You look at the energy that they play with and you look at the energy that he plays with at their best. And look, you know, Kimmich and Goretzka aren't going to go on forever. I would be looking at that. I don't think they have the money to make it happen, but I think he'd be great there.
Yeah, what will happen with Kobbie Mainoo? And then what about Rasmus Højlund as well? He's close to leaving. Napoli will hold more talks with Manchester United as they look to finalise a deal for the striker. Andy, the big question here is, though, obviously Romelu Lukaku is injured at the moment, but what happens when Romelu Lukaku gets back fit?
And this is really the crux of the deal, Olivia, because Napoli would like to borrow him and have an option that becomes obligatory after he's played a certain amount of games. And I guess Manchester United are looking at that and thinking, OK, well, if Lukaku gets fit and they never play him again, we're left with this problem again this time next year, which is an issue. I mean, in terms of what United are realistically looking for, I think you have to be honest and say there's not a lot of days left in the transfer window. They've been trying to ditch him for a long time now. He's fallen well short of expectations there. He's used to Serie A. We know he can perform well there. And really, all they need to do with Højlund for the moment is reinflate his value, is to make him sellable. Now, obviously, they would like some guaranteed money, and wouldn't we all? But look, I think you have to be realistic, and if that is the only sticking point, they just have to get him back out there in the shop window, because at the moment, they are lucky that Napoli are desperate. They thought they'd already sorted their transfer window. You know, they got Kevin De Bruyne early on. They got all the other players they wanted early on. And all of a sudden, they've been thrown this curveball 14 days before the start of the season. And they have to deal with it. So it's a great opportunity for United. I don't think they should be picking over the little bits. Just get it done. Just
get it done. Well, amongst all the changes or potential changes, there was that huge shock last night, wasn't there? It's a new low, suffering an embarrassing defeat to Grimsby Town in the Carabao Cup second round after what was an absolutely brilliant penalty shootout, by the way. But Ashley, I think embarrassing, it feels like the right word to sum up Manchester United last night.
100%. But I think before we get onto that, fair play to Grimsby. Yeah. Well done, Grimsby. Let's not forget that. I know the storyline is Manchester United, but well done to Grimsby.
The best team on the night went through.
Yeah, 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion. And it's just another thing with Manchester United. But just when you think there's nothing else you can say about them, like they come up with something like last night, and it's there's loads of words that you could use: embarrassing, ridiculous, just poor. The manager he comes out, he doesn't feel you have any confidence at all that he's going to rectify the situation. I don't know how low it can get at Manchester United before they start to build back up again. It was just when you don't think that that's going to happen, it happens, and it's in typical recent Manchester United fashion.
I suppose it's just the optics of it, really, isn't it? Because if you think about it, the Carabao Cup shouldn't be the ultimate aim for Manchester United this season. If you go back to previous generations of United teams, you think of United getting beaten in this competition 3-0 at home by York. And it's just something you get over because they're a bigger fish to fry. But I guess because it's so tense, because each match feels like Amorim auditioning still, even though he's been in charge for almost a year now. This is why it means so much. And it shouldn't mean so much, but it says a lot about where United are at this moment that it does.
And then they know they're not going to win the league this year. There's almost zero chance of them winning the league.
No Europe.
Yeah, no Europe. So you'd think, and they didn't play the weakest team that they've got.
They played
a strong team.
For Man United, they played a pretty strong team against League Two Grimsby.
They would be going for it, and they'd be trying to. If I'm in that Manchester United team, I understand. Okay, we're probably not going to win the league, but I want some silverware. It's a good opportunity.
Let's go for the cups.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, since Amorim's come in, Andy, I mean, first of all, do you think there's any way back for him? Do you think it's okay? But have you seen enough of an improvement in Manchester United? You know, Amorim's been in charge for a while now. This isn't someone who came in a couple of months ago.
Yeah, the word improvement's doing a lot of heavy lifting there, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. I suppose there's some gentle progress in the sense that they've started this season with pretty much the same team that they finished last season with. So it's clear that he feels that the back part of the team he's got right, and he's trying to just fix a new forward line to that. Now, look, until Šeško's fit, I think it's very difficult to make any judgments on how United are really going to function. And there have been good bits, I think, in the opening 2 Premier League games. I thought it was really encouraging the way they played against Arsenal. But because the pressure is so intense at Manchester United, we all know that there are a couple of clubs in the Premier League where you just don't get time to work because the pressure is so intense that everything means so much. I think the problem is, until it gets to about October, if United fire him before then, it doesn't look like it's on him, it looks like it's on the club. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe definitely doesn't want that for the moment. It's kind of like how they used Erik ten Hag as a bit of a human shield last season, you know, and you know, that kind of wrote off last season, didn't it? Because it meant that Amorim came in without a pre-season. Of course, the thing is, now he has had a pre-season, there are less and less excuses. I think he'll get time for a while yet, but you know, it's tense and it's really difficult.
I mean, actually, sort of pose this question in your first answer, but where do United go from here? I mean, that Burnley at home this weekend is way bigger. 3rd Premier League game of the season. It's way bigger than anyone would have expected at this stage.
And Burnley will be right up for it. If you're Burnley now, all of a sudden, I mean, when I used to play against Manchester United, you was like, this is a free hit, we're probably going to lose, but we could give it a go. Burnley are now going into it thinking, right, they're there for the taking. But the bigger, I really thought that Ruben Amorim would do well when he came in. I thought he had a really good system that he played that was difficult to play against. It's just completely not worked at all, and he's sticking to what he believes in. Fair play to him for that. But there's got to come a time when he says, I don't have the players to play in this system, or they're not understanding my instructions, and change it and be a little bit more flexible and adaptable to the Premier League or to the players that he's got. I don't really see how he's going to fix this. And as I said before, he doesn't come out of film with confidence when he says, I know what the problem is, I'm going to change this by the weekend.
Yeah, and another one of Ruben Amorim's problems is the goalkeeper. Andre Onana returned to the starting 11 but made 2 costly mistakes. Amorim, though, dismissed the suggestion that he has any issues with the goalkeeper's position.
When you play against a 4th division team, it's not the goalkeeper, it's everything. It's the environment, it's the way we face the competition. We know that we are in the moment, everything. People will pay attention to everything. It's going to be massive, every detail. And we show that performance today. So my players spoke for me really loud.
That was Ruben Amorim there, speaking about the goalkeeper position. I mean, Andre Onana, first start of the season, didn't quite cover himself in glory, did he, Ashley?
No, I just don't get it. I feel like when I watch him play, you just want him to have a quiet game. You're like, can we get through a game or a week without mentioning Andre Onana if he's in between the sticks? And you always are. So the fact that we're talking about him again this morning, I'm glad that his manager's come out and backed him and tried to play that down. But we have to talk about him because, again, he's made costly errors, big errors, and he's so flamboyant in the goal. It's like, just have a quiet game. It's not, you don't have to be the star of the show in this game. Just do your job. Don't be for us here sitting talking about you. But again, we're talking about him for errors.
I mean, he did take a good penalty. Give that to him. Did step up and take a good penalty in the shootout. Not that you need your goalkeeper to do that, really, ever. They are in talks with Royal Antwerp's, is it Senna Lammens?
Senna Lammens.
Is he an upgrade, Andy, on Onana? and buy and dear, I suppose. But maybe should their focus be on one of the best goalkeepers in world football that's currently sat there not playing and available?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, the Gigi Donnarumma shadow is not just there because he's 6.5 foot tall. I think you look at Lamens and you think this is another sort of player that if I was him, I'd be thinking, what is awaiting me at United? When I look at similar players, or players of a similar age profile to me who've gone there, have they developed as they should? Have they got closer to fulfilling their potential there? Now, look, Lamens has got everything that suggests that he should be a good Premier League goalkeeper. He's big, he comes to crosses, he's got a decent amount of first-team experience there as well. And United have been interested in him for a while, so this isn't an impulse buy or anything like that. But what happens, he gets there and he has a difficult start. I mean, all of a sudden, you're back to square one and you're faced with just another problem. Surely someone who's experienced, who can deal with things. I mean, I've always had... Obviously, Donnarumma was the best goalkeeper in the Premier League, in the Champions League last season. Whether he can be that in the Premier League, someone who is not great with his feet, is obviously a phenomenal shot stopper, but it's kind of glued to his line a lot of the time. In the Premier League, you're going to get contact, you're going to want to come for crosses. I don't know. Does it feel like another potential United disaster if that was something that was going to happen for them? I kind of feel that he would be able to cope with the heat better than Lamens until we know otherwise. Maybe he'll be great for them. But it just feels like another player who is being asked to take on too great responsibility early on.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where Gianluigi Donnarumma goes at the end of the window. Right, it's been the story of the summer, hasn't it? Alexander Isak does not want to be a Newcastle player, but the club do not want to sell him. With 4 days to go, will we get a resolution? We'll get the panel's thoughts next. Welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. Let's get to Newcastle now, and you get the feeling the next few days are pivotal in how Eddie Howe's side may look. Certainly up front, they are expected to make an increased offer worth £60 million for Wolves striker Jurgen Strand Larsen. I mean, Andy, they only paid £23 million for him on July the 1st. And now a few months later, they could be getting £60 million for him. Is this the quickest flip of a transfer ever?
So you take it out of context, and it sounds like a great deal for Wolves. But I kind of wonder if this isn't a great deal for anyone, actually, if Newcastle end up paying £60 million for him. Because, look, he's Premier League proven. We know that. He was fantastic last year. I think Wolves were better with him leading the line. In that spell where Cunha had that long suspension, I thought they played some of their best football of the season. He's adapted really well. But having said that, it is an awful lot of money, and there's no way the player's not feeling that expectation when he arrives. And from Wolves' perspective, there's a serious danger that if they don't replace him effectively, that they're going to get relegated. You know, they're definitely hovering above the trapdoor. Obviously, Vitor Pereira's not really happy about what they've done or haven't done in the window so far, even though there's been a slow trickle of players over the last little while. But obviously, replacing someone like your starting centre-forward at very short notice is difficult. I thought about this with both Wissa and with Strand Larsen. At this point in the window, what makes it worthwhile for Brentford and Wolves to sell them? I think you're probably looking, if you're going to cover yourself against relegation, you're probably looking at a figure of over 100 million, which is what you're going to lose if you get relegated, and no one's paying that. So where's the value? I don't understand where the value is for either team.
Do you think, actually, the difference in Jurgen Strand Larsen staying at Wolves or going to Newcastle is the difference between them potentially staying up and going down? Yeah,
they obviously have a much better chance of staying up with him in the team. I think he's a very good striker, and they're not going to get anyone else in at this point. I don't know of a striker that a team like Wolves are going to be able to get in to replace what he gives them. Whether now Strand Larsen starts to say, I want to go, because I'm sure he does, that he would want that move, I think, because you've got the Isak situation. He goes in, I'm sure the fans welcome him straight away. Yeah. But if you're Wolves, there's no way. You're doing everything you can to keep him because you need him to stay in this division. He plays well. I think he suits the system. He's comfortable there. You just want to keep him. There's no reason to sell him, even for the money, because, like you said, it doesn't add up in the end if they end up going down.
Yeah, I think it is being reported that, obviously he does want the move to Newcastle, but he'd also equally be happy if he did stay at Wolves. He's not forcing through a move there. Let's get on to Alexander Isak, because obviously the Jurgen Strand Larsen move will obviously have an impact on the Alexander Isak deal. Just first of all, actually, what have you made of this whole saga that we have been talking about this whole summer, pretty much? Yeah,
you just want it done and dusted now, either way, don't you? It's gone way too far for him to go back now. I can't see. We all know, and we've been in positions where you want to move to a certain club, and there's ways to go about it, and sometimes you have to force it a little bit. It works both ways. Sometimes the club will force you out. Sometimes you have to force yourself out. He's gone very extreme with it, and I don't see how he can ever go back and play for Newcastle. So there's only one outcome in my eyes. How that happens, I'm not sure. But I don't think that we're going to see him play for Newcastle ever again. And it's been drawn out, and it's getting a little bit like, let's just get it done now, because we know something's going to happen. Is he going to sit there when the transfer window closes and not play? I don't think so. That's just that, yeah. We keep talking about it. It's the most drawn-out transfer ever, I think.
Don't worry, Ashley. We've only got 4 days, so whatever happens, we have only got 4 days left of talking about Alexander Isak. But Andy, whilst you said you don't think the Jurgen Strand Larsen and even the Wissa move makes sense for their clubs, does this just make sense now to let Alexander Isak go to Liverpool and then all the domino effect of all the other strikers moving after? Because like Ashley says, it feels like there's no way back, especially from Isak's perspective.
Look, I feel this has been mismanaged by every party involved, to be perfectly honest. I think they could all look at it and say we could have done a bit better there. The fact is that at this moment in time, why would Liverpool want to buy him? I understand he's one of the best strikers, if not the best striker, we're talking about his all-round game in the Premier League. But if I was them and I'd seen how the first couple of weeks of the season have gone with Ugo Ekitike, why am I dropping 150 million or even 120 million on Alex Isak? I'm not, because I'm thinking to complement what they've already got, I probably need a wide forward who is happy to start from the bench, someone who can contribute goals, someone who can give them punch off the bench. I'm not looking for Alex Isak, to be perfectly honest. And I think that the difficulty is here, the way that he's handled this, is that, look, even if we imagine that everything he said is true and the club have broken promises and all the rest of it, the only people he's really hurt here is the people he's not aiming to hurt. He's hurt himself and he's hurt the fans. Because say if he does get this move to Liverpool, when's he going to be properly fit by? October? He's not trained with the team since the middle of July. He's not ready.
When you look at the Liverpool situation, I think it is clear they definitely need an attacker of some sort. And like Andy says, if they do get Isak, what does that mean for Hugo Ekitike? Does it mean he moves out onto the left? And we've seen the impact he's had starting through the middle for Liverpool so far this season.
I think the plan was obviously Isak to start and then Ekitike to come off the bench. But he's looked so good at the start that I'm with you on it. I'm starting to think. Obviously, you're never going to turn down a world-class player, which Isak definitely is. But do you want to pay so much for someone at this point in time when you started the season so well?
So say if you had the option now, maybe I'm asking the wrong person here because I'm asking a centre-back, but say if I have a pot of money, if I'm Liverpool, it's like you can go and buy Gay or you can buy Isak.
They need. I think that's what the start of the season has shown. Probably Liverpool fans and Arne Slot is actually we need something at the back more than we need going forward.
I mean, maybe they'll get both. Maybe come Monday evening, they will get both Mark Gahey and Alexander Isak. Right, a 6-0 loss on the night and 9-1 on aggregate. It was a disastrous night for Russell Martin and Rangers, to say the least. We'll be live to Ibrox next to assess the damage. Thank you very much, William. Right, time now for our transfer update. Chelsea are close to agreeing a deal with Manchester United for that man, Alejandro Garnacho. Manchester United boss Ruben Amorim says he believes in Kobbie Mainoo more than everybody thinks, but it's important for the teenager to fight for his place in the team. Newcastle United are expected to make an increased offer worth £60 million for Wolves striker Jurgen Strand Larsen. Wolves are interested in KRC Genk striker Tolu Arokodare. Tottenham target Savinho is expected to stay at Manchester City beyond the end of the transfer window. Tottenham have expressed an interest in Xavi Simons, but Chelsea are considered the front runners. Bayern Munich have held talks with Chelsea about signing their striker Nicholas Jackson. Villarreal winger Yeremy Pino is set to undergo a medical with Crystal Palace today. And Palace are in talks with Arsenal over the permanent signing of forward Reece Nelson. West Ham are back in talks to sign Botafogo goalkeeper John Victor. Brentford have rejected a bid from Wolfsburg for defender Christopher Ayer. The offer was understood to be worth an initial £11 million. And Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is looking to pursue playing opportunities in England after terminating his contract at Besiktas. Well, it was a humbling night for Russell Martin as he saw his Rangers team crash out of the Champions League following a 6-0 drubbing against Club Brugge, losing 9-1 on aggregate across the two legs. For more now, we can go live to Ibrox and join Gordon Duncan. Gordon, Russell Martin apologetic once again last night for his side's performance, but things don't get any easier for him, do they? With the old firm on Sunday.
Yeah, well, you call it humbling, you could throw in humiliating, embarrassing. I think that's probably how the Rangers fans woke up feeling this morning. Everything about it, the manner of the defeat, the way that it all unfolded. 6-0 is Rangers' joint ever worst European result. The 9-1 on aggregate is also their joint worst aggregate result as well. You look through the game, going behind early on, the red card was comical, probably not if you're a Rangers fan, but to everyone else watching. So everything about it, I think the Rangers fans probably knew they weren't going to make the Champions League. They had that deficit from the first leg that they were trying to resurrect. They probably knew it would be Europa League football, but the way it came about was really, really sobering for the Rangers fans. There were chants against Russell Martin coming from the away fans. There was then a banner here at Ibrox late last night as the players arrived back. The noise around Russell Martin is getting louder and louder, and as you say, the small matter of the visit of Celtic at the weekend. Now, if you're an eternal optimist, you might say it's the perfect chance to try and turn things around. On the other hand, it probably feels this morning for the Rangers fans, if they lose this on Sunday, it is going to be an incredible amount of negativity for Russell Martin to deal with if he's not dealing with it already.
Can Russell Martin salvage this start in the last 4 days of the transfer window, do you think, Gordon?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens on that front as well, because Rangers have done a lot of their business. They've brought so many players in, and that's the frustration. These players haven't really hit the ground running yet. If you're looking at incomings and outgoings, Bojan Miovski, very successful here with Aberdeen, has been over with Girona in La Liga. Talk's still ongoing there. That may be one that Rangers would look to accelerate today and try and put a more positive spin on things. But the most interesting focus may be outgoings. I think the future of Nicholas Raskin cast into further doubt again last night. Again, he didn't start the game heading over to Belgium. He's a Belgian international. He was arguably Rangers' best player last season. Cyril Dessers as well. There's been a lot of speculation about him, and Rangers are still to officially confirm the exit of Hamza Igaman, a £10.5 million move to Lille. So at the moment it looks like more outgoings. Rangers fans will be hoping Bojan Miovski and then others can come in and try and improve this picture, because it's looking pretty bleak as things stand.
Thank you very much, Gordon. Well, it's so early on in the season, but it already feels like there is so much on the line in this one. The latest instalment of The Old Firm is this Sunday from 11 on Sky Sports Football. It's set to be an absolute cracker. Right, it's time to get to Chelsea now. Nicholas Jackson will only be allowed to leave in a permanent move or a loan with an obligation to buy. Bayern Munich and Aston Villa want Jackson, and there are expected to be more developments when Alexander Isak's future at Newcastle United as a result. Feels like there's a domino effect of strikers going around at the moment. But actually, one thing is for sure, and that's Nicholas Jackson is still very raw. It was only his first couple of seasons playing as a centre forward, 24 years old, still got a lot to give. I mean, I don't want him to leave Chelsea, but it feels like naturally this is the only way it's going to end. But I think he'd be a very good signing for a lot of clubs.
Yeah, why is he raw at 24? I don't like.
I think maybe raw in like the position,
right? Okay.
Because he's not.
But
He's only come to Chelsea and played as a.
I think he's raw anyway. Like technically, yeah. I don't really get it. Would he suit like an Aston Villa who need to replace some of the players they've lost? Probably, yeah. I think, with a little bit of confidence, he could probably do a good job in the number 9. He hasn't filled me with loads of confidence playing for Chelsea. He sometimes looks like, I don't know, a little bit clumsy. But yeah, he's another player just similar like what we're talking about this morning that needs to go and find somewhere, because as football players, you train all week and you get it, you do all your work and you prepare. And if you don't have a game on the weekend, your week is just gone and you're miserable. So football players want to be playing and knowing that they're in the manager's thoughts to start. So for Nicholas Jackson, yeah, it will be a good move for him if he does get out.
Yeah, well, what about Christopher Nkunku? Because AC Milan are the latest club to show interest in him. RB Leipzig have held talks with Chelsea for Nkunku, while Bayern Munich had an approach knocked back to take him on loan. Chelsea and Nkunku only want a permanent deal, and Chelsea value him at £43 million this summer. And are you surprised by this AC Milan interest? And if it is concrete and it is legit, is there going to have to be a compromise from some parts of this?
Yeah, I think that it might have to be a loan with an obligation to buy, which is the basis on which Bayern are interested in Nicholas Jackson, for example, because they're limited in what they can spend for the rest of this summer. There's less money at Milan, but they need 2 strikers. They're fed up of waiting for Konrad Harder to come from Sporting, because again, you talked about that domino effect. Sporting are waiting for a replacement to come in, so they're getting a little bit panicked as the time ticks down towards the deadline. Look, it'd be a massive upgrade on what they've got. And Nkunku needs to play, and with the World Cup coming up next summer, he will think he's got a chance of getting in that squad, and he's got the ability to get in that squad. The thing with Milan is they need to get 2 strikers in. before deadline. They're aware of that. So quite how this deal is structured, I think, is quite interesting, especially when we know the money that he earns at Chelsea and Kunku is way beyond what Milan can afford to pay him.
Yeah, right. We've got some big breaking transfer news right now, and that is that West Ham have agreed a £42 million deal with Southampton for Mateus Fernandes. The fee is broken up into a £38 million guaranteed payment plus £4 million in add-ons, and a medical is already underway. I mean, Ashley, for West Ham fans, they'll be looking at this, they'll be positive, they'll be excited, because one thing is for sure, they need midfielders, they need legs. And that's what Mateus Fernandes is going to bring. Yeah,
you're exactly right. They need exactly that. They need a lot of things, but I think they need energy. They need they need more mobility in that midfield. Hope they've put the money down. They've gone and got the man that they wanted. It would be a very I don't want to say depressing, but it's not a great start if you're involved with West Ham at all. So this gives them a little bit of something to talk about, a bit of positivity, and I think he'll do okay there. It'll be an upgrade on what they've got at the minute, I think, at the start of the season. So it's good news for West Ham. I feel sorry for West Ham supporters a little bit, because this is another manager that I think doesn't fill the fan base with confidence post-match after a bad performance. He doesn't really say anything to make you feel like he's going to go and do something, but the club have acted and they've moved on with Fernandes.
They have, at last. I mean, I guess one of the problems with Potter is you felt like he was really sort of walking through, fulfilling the rest of last season. You thought, OK, when he's got a full pre-season, he's going to get his chance. But not really enough has changed in terms of the squad. I mean, it's fine them making signings now as a reaction to what have been two unbelievably bad performances so far. I mean, on the back of that, they're looking down the barrel of a relegation, even bearing in mind the difficulties that promoted teams have had coming up the last couple of seasons. So this needs to be the start of something. They need to give Potter something to work with, and there needs to be some furious trading outs, if possible, as well as ins before Monday. Yeah,
they definitely need some more players as well, don't they? But Mateus Fernandes looks like he is on his way to West Ham from Southampton in a £42 million deal. Like we said, a medical is already underway there. Now, another player that could be on his way in to the London Stadium is John Victor. Now, this is an interesting one because obviously they were in for him initially, and Botafogo currently want to agree a much higher fee for their goalkeeper than the £6 million that West Ham are prepared to pay. That is if the loan does eventually become permanent. Andy, West Ham looking a bit silly in this situation because they wanted him. It was at the airport. They decided for Mads Hermansen, and now they're going back in for him with Areola still there as well.
Yeah, I don't think they can worry about how it looks. They just need to improve that squad. And I'm a bit confused as what's gone on, what they've decided over the last little while. I mean, it can't purely be a reaction to the fact that Hermansen didn't have a great game on Friday night, because you could say that for any one of 14 West Ham players, really, couldn't you? So, look, they just need to get that squad sorted, and what people are saying about it shouldn't matter to them at all.
Well, a reminder then of that breaking news. Mateus Fernandes is on his way to West Ham in a deal worth £42 million that has now been agreed between the two clubs. Coming up next, we'll assess Everton's business and we'll chat to Gianluigi Donnarumma. Right, now, PSG goalkeeper Gianluigi Donnarumma hasn't given up hope of a move before the deadline. As it stands, Manchester City are the most viable option if Ederson leaves the club. City's intention is to keep Ederson amid huge interest from Galatasaray. And it does feel like, we spoke about him a little bit earlier in terms of Manchester United. We have spoken about him and potentially going to City. Feels like interest has cooled a little bit on sort of like that front. Do you understand why?
Well, it's kind of the Ederson thing at the moment. I mean, City are already in this sort of awkward position because, of course, they've signed James Trafford. There is the sense of, what's going to happen if Ederson stays or if they bring in another huge name goalkeeper who you can't really have on the bench. So it's a difficult situation for them. It's also difficult for Gigi Donnarumma because, of course, PSG have tried to play it sort of on the D-Lo, but his teammates insisted he did a goodbye before the first home game last Friday night. So they pushed him out in front of the crowd and they're like, do your bow, and he's there in a black tracksuit trying to look really low-key and, sort of taking the applause and all the rest of it. And presumably he'll be going back for the next home game as well, the way it's
what happens if he stays at PSG? What happens then? He just doesn't play?
He just won't be in the team because they've put everything with Lucas Chevalier. So.
I can't understand, actually, I don't know about you, that why clubs aren't jumping at the chance to sign arguably one of the best goalkeepers in world football.
Well, it was earlier in the show we were speaking about Manchester United. You would have thought they would have done everything they could to go and get a player of that quality and experience. Now it looks like Manchester City, if Ederson does go, I'm not sure if that's a good fit, actually, with Donnarumma's qualities. And with, like what you said with James Trafford there anyway. But yeah, I'm with you. A player of that quality, with his experience, what he did last season, you'd think he'd have clubs, jumping at him straight away.
Is this one to watch, Andy, just because that the Turkish window is open 10 days later than the English one? So obviously that move that Ederson could make could happen later.
It could, but essentially, if City don't get in Donnarumma, you can't see Ederson going anywhere. So the fact the Turkish window extends to September 12th, if they haven't got in a replacement by the end of Monday, presumably not happening.
Yeah, that is definitely one to keep your eye on. Where will these two goalkeepers end up? Right, Ashley, let's talk about one of your former clubs, shall we, in Everton. What have you made, just first of all, of their business this summer under David Moyes? Because it feels like they've got it pretty spot on.
Yeah, I think David Moyes is very astute in what he's doing and the way he goes about his business. But ones that jump out is Tyler Diblin, obviously Jack Grealish, Dewsbury Hall. So I think when looking at Everton last season, when David Moyes went in, he steadied the ship. He did exactly what you thought he would do, but they was lacking a little bit of creativity going forward. I think they probably would still like an out-and-out striker, as someone with a little bit more quality. You can see at times when these type of players, Dewsbury Hall and Grealish, are trying to play into strikers with clever runs. And so Beto, I do really like Beto. He's a real try, but I don't think he has that quality. But I think Everton fans will be very happy with the situation of the club, given what it was a few years ago.
Andy, which one of these is the pick of the bunch? Obviously, I mean, Jack Grealish, the obvious one, but yeah.
Tierno Barry. I think he'll be great for them, but because Everton have started quite well, they're not forced to play him straight away. They're not forced to make him carry the load. A little bit like, you think of someone else who came over to the Premier League from Villarreal. Nicholas Jackson was forced to wear the big boy pants from day one because Chelsea didn't really have another option. So the way that we've seen Jackson develop, and you were talking about him developing quite slowly, I think it's quite interesting. If you compare his goal-scoring record over the first two seasons to Didier Drogba, who's obviously a Chelsea legend, very, very similar. Yeah. Took him to the third season to really hit it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just talking about Jack Grealish, Ashley, you mentioned him there, how nice it is for everyone just to see him flourishing and just to be a little bit free at Everton.
I think if everyone is enjoying seeing him, just his whole demeanour at the minute. I said earlier, for football players, you don't want to be playing, you want to feel important, you want to feel like you mean something to that place. I think got to the point at Manchester City where he didn't feel that, he didn't feel the love for whatever reason, he wasn't enjoying it. Now he's come into a club. The fans have got straight behind him. He's a massive talent. Like, we all know how good he is. And for, even internationally, he'll want to be in a starting team and doing his stuff. I think it's really exciting for a club, like a club like Everton, to get Jack Grealish and just to see him with a big smile on his face again.
Do you agree, Andy?
2 months ago, they wouldn't have felt they had a chance of getting him. But you think of this wave of positivity that's going through Everton at the moment, everything that Moyes has done in the last 6 months, the new stadium, all of it's coming together. And they must be thinking at the moment, this is the best it's been for a very long time.
Yeah, it's really positive, obviously, going into the new stadium as well. Where else do you think? So, striker, do you think maybe a central midfielder? Do you think they're OK there?
I think they can get by. But it's a case of, for all these teams in the Premier League, if something becomes available, and sometimes the way it works is a certain team or an agent might actually phone another club and say, we have this guy available, do you want him? So now there's going to be a lot of activity in the last few days. If that does become available, I'm sure they'll want him. But I think they're OK. As I say, maybe an out-and-out number 9 would be good. I think they're OK everywhere else. And I think they'll have a good season with or without that number 9.
Yeah, if I'm them, I want to replace Doucouré.
You want to replace Doucouré midfield, yeah?
Yeah, look at the season as a whole. Yeah.
Perfect. Right. Good Morning Transfers is back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Ashley will be returning in the morning. Transfer Talk is here at midday. Our chief correspondent, Kaveh Solokol, will be joining us. And for a full roundup, you can catch the Transfer Show at 4 and 7 p.m. The biggest thank you to Andy Brassell and to Ashley Williams. Sky Sports Fan Club is here next. Charlie Austin will be joining Will Perry, reacting to Manchester United's